Welcome everyone to today's Two Saints podcast show. Myself, Mark C, and my co-host Mark H. How's it going, Mark?
It's going well, mate. Busier week than I thought. I thought halfway sort of through the week, I thought we're going to struggle for content here, but thankfully we've managed to turn it round, and there's plenty of content to get through today.
There certainly is. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Coming up in the first half of the show for you today, we have the Two Saints review of Saints 2, Everton 0 and Saints Club news. Right, just a small announcement for you that the Two Saints show is moving from Thursday the 19th of November to the 1 to 3 p.m. slot on Fiesta 95 FM. So, still on a Thursday, from 1 till 3 p.m. on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints show.
Right, welcome back everybody. The Two Saints review of Saints 2, Everton 0. That's right, Saints 2, Everton 0. Saints soared past the league leaders Everton. Ralph Hasenhüttl said it was no coincidence we won, and Che Adams held a combined collective effort. And Lucas Digne, the Everton defender, had a 3-game ban rescinded to a 1-game ban. They sailed past the league leaders and nobody seemed that bothered. They were more concerned about games from about a year ago, to be honest.
Well, all I would say on the game, mate, is I just thought from start to finish, well, certainly first half we looked irresistible. Full-backs were getting forward, plenty of support, balls going into the box, chances, long-range shots coming in from, I seem to remember Oriol Romeu having one early doors.
Pickford.
They had a ball that came in to Stuart Armstrong, and unfortunately it was a fresh air shot. It was overall it was a really good performance. I mean, I had said if you remember last week that this was going to be Everton's first proper test in terms of any kind of credentials, even though they were top of the league. I've got to admit, just going off the game slightly, I've still got to I'm trying to get my head around the fact that we were second on Match of the Day. We're playing the league leaders, right?
Unbelievable.
And Arsenal, right? And at home to Leicester was the first game on. You're thinking, hang on, we've just beaten the league leaders. What are you going to do? 2-0. But anyway, I'm going on about that.
To the mass media, doesn't it?
Yeah. No. Back to the game. So, I mean, what really impressed me first half was the ability of both Ryan Bertrand and Kyle Walker-Peters to get forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the game itself, I'm going to change my view, because this week, rather than Danny Ings getting it, I'm going to give it to Che Adams. Richly, I mean, on the score sheet again, richly deserved goal, and we had James Ward-Prowse with his, golf shot of the goal.
Yeah, first of the campaign as well, and on his 200th appearance for Saints, no less.
Yeah, and I think the ball's still travelling.
Certainly travelling at a rate of knots.
It was Che Adams' 6th goal in 12 games as well, which bodes well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Saints, 10-point return from 6 games for Saints, and their 4th game unbeaten, and three of those games have been clean sheets as well. And Alex McCarthy, surprisingly as well, on his 100th appearance for Saints, marked it with a clean sheet. So there you
go. Exactly. And when was the last time we had back-to-back clean sheets as well?
Absolutely.
The other thing that I would say, Mark, is, we don't want to dwell on it.
No.
And I don't really want to be the one to bring it up.
No.
But obviously, last weekend was the anniversary of that horrible night last year.
Yep.
And I just want to point out to the listeners that in the past year, Saints have picked up 2 more league points than the opponents that night. Leicester have
right.
in the last year. So there is a lot of hope, but there should be a lot of hope and optimism about.
As well, the only other thing to point out about it that is important that we've both discussed as well is the fact that Saints did actually lose 2 games after that, and those games don't get mentioned. So it wasn't just that game that they were having a sticky patch. It wasn't a walk-off. They actually had 2 games after that they'd lost as well before they even started to turn the corner. So it certainly wasn't because of that.
And it was 2 games at home because I think we lost Everton and West Ham. So you can't really you can't really look at that game and say that was the turnaround point, because it wasn't. We were still losing games up until basically just before we played Villa.
Another plus point as well. Another plus point about this game against Everton was it's another home win as well, which is something we struggled with last season. So please keep the fans away because we keep winning at home.
Oh, so you're bad into it? No, you're bad into it.
We do fine without them.
For a club like us and a team like us, right? I just think to myself, the sky's the limit as long as the fans aren't in the stadium. I think as soon as you start bringing fans, and this is why this is wider football in the Premier League as well. As soon as you start bringing fans back into the stadia, then you're going to have where crowd does have influence. And I know that people, talk about inconsistencies from referees and all the rest of it, but you can certainly see that the players play with freedom.
Absolutely.
And the referees obviously don't have the same pressures on them when there's fans in the stadium. I mean, that's all I want to say about that. Yeah. But, I mean, in terms of how we played, I mean, I thought it was a really controlled performance, Baz, as well. I thought that, for the threat that Everton did pose, I mean, we looked very, very comfortable at the back. I mean, dare I say that, the man that we labelled, and sorry, Yannick Vestergaard, but the man we labelled the Queen Mary, I mean, he didn't seem to be struggling against the hot shot form of Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, to be fair, given his turning against Everton, to be fair, it was a lot less like the Queen Mary and a bit more like the Virgin Atlantic Challenger. He was definitely a little bit quicker on the turn, which is good.
Yeah. So he's moved up the cruise liner now rather than
upgraded a little bit.
But
he played very well against Calvert-Lewin.
Both of them did, for recent weeks. Yeah. I would say both of them have sort of come in for a bit of criticism. Certainly even after the Chelsea game, although I think both defences in that game were wide open. But I thought both the central defenders sort of equipped themselves to what they had to deal with fairly well.
For me, the only downside really, I thought it was a really productive first 45 minutes for Saints. And for me, the only downside to the first half was the Stuart Armstrong goal that was disallowed. That was the only downside to the half.
I agree, mate. For me, although he improved in the second half, I would say Nathan Redmond. Everybody else in a red and white shirt were playing well, but I personally thought Nathan Redmond struggled. Although I think it was Alan Smith, the ex-Arsenal forward, on Sky Sports, given man of the match. So I'm not sure what game he was watching, but it certainly wasn't the same game that I was watching in the first half.
I've got to be honest, Alan Smith, no offence to Alan Smith, I felt that Ryan Bertrand and Carl Walker-Peters contributed far more to the game and were definitely more of a threat going forward than Redmond was. And to be fair, Redmond spurned a flurry of chances in the first half and spurned a flurry of opportunities to put a really good ball into decent areas as well. So
I think I got cross with him where the angle wasn't even on for the shot. He decided to take a shot nowhere near the goal. Yeah. And the from the position where he picked up the ball, obviously the cross was the better option, And then there was times when on his side of the pitch in the first half, Rand Bergkamp was beaten forward. I noticed that both of them in the second half didn't get foot. They weren't bombing forward as much in the second half as what they were in the first half. And we were in the first half, I've got to say, we were back to holding a fairly high line because they were, the full backs were so far up the pitch. Yeah. But Mark, I'm gonna go early here and say to you, I know that the preview of the Villa game's coming up for Sunday, but I just want to say one thing to people. Hasenhüttl has a huge call to make for Sunday, whether he plays, Nathan Redmond or he goes on that side of the pitch with, Theo Walcott. I think it's a huge decision. I think I'm actually thinking he might duck the issue, but I think it's a decision that needs to be made. I really do.
I've got to be honest with you, given the impact of both of them, given the way that Theo played against Chelsea, and given the way Redmond performed in the first half against Everton, I would actually be bold enough to go with Theo. But I'm not sure if Ralph will make that call.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to be strong enough to make that call. I think, Redmond will probably keep his place. But certainly it makes everything interesting going into Sunday because, all right, yes, they Villa lost, but like I say, it'll make Sunday's game interesting because, they'll be looking to bounce back, basically. Right. But having said all that, just going back to the game again, I think it's important to say that the midfield, right, which I always think is key in recycling the ball, retaining the ball and stuff like that there. For to be playing top of the league, are they going to have an easier game this season?
I don't know, actually, to be fair.
You know what I mean?
Was it a case of, was it an easy game, or was it a case of we just performed that well that Everton didn't even get out of the blocks? Because I actually think it's because we played that well.
Talking specifically about the midfielders because it's about retaining the football and picking your pass. And
the midfielders had an easy game.
At times that's where your pressure would tend to come from is where, losing the ball in the midfield is a lot of times where the pressure comes from. Yep. But as I say, everybody acquitted themselves well, and as I've said, I give man of the match to Che Adams. Although James Ward-Prowse's goal was a net buster, mate. That looked like it was going to break the net, and to be fair, it was hit at some speed.
62.8 miles an hour, apparently.
Yeah, so see, there you go. But
where's it gone?
Fantastic, and we move on to the next game.
Absolutely right.
And all I would say, Mark, is, and this won't make any sense to the listeners at all, but let's hope we're doing a watch along again on Sunday.
Oh, I certainly hope so. Yeah, regards to the Everton game itself as well, Saints made it 2/3 of the way through the game with their lead firmly intact, to be fair, and they were actually still pressing high and creating opportunities. And the industry of play was absolutely brilliant, to be fair. But I thought it probably was a little bit susceptible to fatigue, and it could have been, to be fair. Kyle Walker-Peters was still full of running in the 71st minute until that tussle with Lucas Digne. The fullback actually beat his man not once but twice, and then he got cynically carved down by the Frenchman. And we do say cynically because at the end of the day, he had a little nibble at him just before that, went after him, raises his hands, and then before he's even got anywhere near him, he's trod right on his Achilles and slid along the floor on it. And he's sort of got his hands up before he's even done it. No, sorry, it's Lucas Digne. You deserve that red card. It was cynical. It was from behind, and you deserved it. Simple as that. No argument. No argument. Jamie Redknapp, Carlo Ancelotti, or anyone else.
I think from my own point of view, and I'm just going to say this on it because I don't want to dwell too much on it. But what I'll say, Mark, is when you watch the hair on camera, it doesn't look like a lot, right? But then they show the camera from the side, so basically from the side of where they're running, which was the left-hand side, I think.
It's a lot worse.
And effectively, you could see from that angle, like you said, I mean, initially, yeah, he's had a nibble. It looked more than a nibble. He was trying to bring it. It looked more like he was trying to bring him down, because he certainly wasn't trying to win the ball from that position.
No, to be fair, you could hear Walker Peters go as he tagged him.
Yeah,
before he sort of ran away.
But like I say, he like you say, he held his hands up, and usually that's an indication that they're not going to go anywhere near them. And then he's just cynically gone down the back of him. And you can see that from the side on camera.
The thing is, as well, if that was accidental, how would you know to raise your hands before you've even done it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I think there's too many people have had too much to say about it.
Absolutely.
And then the panel's been influenced about reducing it to a one match.
Yeah,
the one thing that did disappoint me was Carlo Ancelotti's reaction to the tackle. I thought that was poor for a man who's been in the game long enough to be able at least to come out and be honest and say
the thing is, as well,
it's horrendous.
If he's come out and said that in the post-match interview, okay, you should be there as a journalist. You should be looking at all the passionates asking him a question, going, if that had been your player, Carlo, what would have been your reaction? Because it would have been completely different. You and I both know that. He'd have been happy for a red card.
100%, but he went down in my estimation. Yeah. And the other thing I'll just say quickly was I thought it was telling on Sunday as well, and it made for a better game, but Jordan Pickford has stopped doing his sweeper keeper antics, which is a relief for all of us.
I did notice he stayed on his line. Well, I'll just run you down a quick head-to-head stats of it, because it's worth noting what these were, because these were quite good for a change.
Yeah.
And it was 54% possession for Saints, 46 for Everton, 13 shots for Saints, 6 for Everton, 6 on target for Saints, 2 for Everton, 4 corners for Saints, 5 for Everton. Passes completed, 539 passes Saints completed to 435 for Everton. So it shows you the master of the game.
Yeah, it shows who the dominant team was, and thankfully it was a dominant display and a deserved 2-0 win. Absolutely
right. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Ralph Hasenhüttl said it was no coincidence we won. We don't really need to expand it too much, other than he said we showed some good quality today of possession and also against the ball. We're very organised and had good game management. It's not a coincidence we won this game today. I think we were the better team against a strong side. We had a clear game plan with and against the ball, and it's always the key to winning to our team. Yeah, absolutely right. Can't disagree with Ralph on that one. And Adams obviously had a collective effort, playing together as a team. Absolutely right. Can't agree with him any further on that. Don't really need to add any more to that. And obviously the red card we've covered. Yep. So that's brought us up to the end of the Two Saints review of Saints 2, Everton 0, which saw us stay in 7th place. We were actually 5th, but obviously other results from Tottenham and Leeds meant we are now 7th. But we're still in the top 10, everyone, so fantastic. What a start to the season. 10 points from 6 is pretty good going. I don't know. We definitely would have took that at the start of the season. Right, just taking a swift break and we'll be back.
Every Thursday at midday to 2 p.m, join Mark C and Mark H for the Two Saints Show. Follow Southampton with pre-match previews and updates from St Mary's live on Fiesta 95 FM every Thursday with the two Marks. Be there or be rectangular.
Right, welcome back everybody. So, Saints Club News. Premier League 2 report, Derby 3, Saints 1, and Dave Horseman saying that the B team are really close. Well, they're not that close because they keep losing, don't they, Mark? It was Derby 3, Saints 1, unfortunately.
The two, I mean, from what I heard, they did get a goal back and they did press, but then 2-1, Derby then make it 3-1.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is. I get that obviously it's for them to step up to the first team, but Mark, the thing is winning breeds a confidence. If you're not winning games of football, I mean, what's the real, unless you're an absolute standout player, right? An absolute baller of a player, right? Hasenhüttl isn't going to consider you for any first team squad. At the minute, because given the results that the B team are serving up, I mean, it must be a situation where the dressing rooms are void of confidence. And, it's like I said the other week, I think I mentioned to you the other week, I mean, Rani JD, okay, Saints went down, we'll come back up, we got promoted with them, right? Yeah. And I'm not I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Ratty was struggling with the B team.
Yeah.
Before he left for the Saints.
Yeah.
But the thing is I think now if you looked at Ratty's record with the B team compared to Horseman's record, I mean, I think the idea possibly was let's bring in a younger coach, and promote within. And obviously, I think Horseman must have came along with Paul Hardyman, because I think they've both gone down the same route. And I think I'm right in saying that even though I think both spent time at Portsmouth, they came via Manchester City, because Paul Hardyman brought a lot of the academy players that he'd worked with down to Southampton from City. We've yet to see whether they progress yet or not. But obviously, Horseman's came down the same route. But the thing is if you look at their records, Horseman, I mean, the club's probably looked at it and thought it's a progressive appointment. It's a young coach.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is his record is actually worse than Ratty JD's.
Yeah, I was looking for the positive points in the actual performance. Callum Slattery got his reward for a dominant first half with an equaliser straight from a free kick on 28 minutes, so he got in on the action. The plus points were obviously him. Callum Slattery played fairly well. He obviously skipped the side. Romello Mitchell was the central figure of the front three. Didn't have much of an impact, to be fair. Tyreek Johnson obviously played as well, back from his spell over in the States with Hartford Athletic. The downside was Alex Jankovic actually got sent off. So it's the second sending off in 2 weeks for the B team, because Michael Oakley got sent off game before, which wasn't great. So that was the only real plus point, to be fair. Harry Lewis let 3 in, which isn't great for him. Agbonta Homer was also sent off for denying a goal scoring opportunity in the 63rd minute. So that was 2 sendings off in the same game. Jankovic and Agbonta Homer both went off. So the only other plus point really was Dan and Lundalu, who obviously featured for the first team recently.
I mean,
other than that, no plus points at all.
It's believed that Ralph's turning up for these games, whether it be home or away, and you're sort of sitting there thinking, well, Penny, for your thoughts. I wonder what he comes away thinking. Cause
he was overly impressed in the game before Obafemi got sent off. I don't think he's probably impressed by that, and he probably wasn't impressed by this one either.
I mean, the thing
he's probably sat with his head in his hand going,
that obviously there's some sort of issue there in terms of discipline, because three players getting sent off in 2 games, that's not particularly clever, is it?
Dave Horseman did say that he feels that it's frustrating at the moment in the fact that they are actually starting to play well but not getting the just rewards. But you can only beat what's in front of you, but you have to have a certain level of performance. And at the moment, they're definitely struggling, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean,
the results aren't going their way, but they're certainly struggling, aren't they?
The bottom line is, and I don't like saying this here, but whatever level you're playing at, and I don't put too much credence on the under 18s, right? But whatever level you're playing at, I think when it comes to the B team, because they're meant to be providing players for the first team squad, right? You need to be getting results, and that is something that we're not getting. We're not getting any results. Now the thing is, Mark, you could argue that one of the problems is that the club throws them in really, really early. Don't forget the likes of Jankovic is still only 18 years of age, right? And this is primarily under 23, so he's 5 years ahead of being within that age group, if you like.
Will Ferry's not. Will Ferry's only, what is he, 17, 18, Will Ferry?
Yeah. So, there is those players, but then there's also the other players. Harry Lewis should know what's going on. Slattery, Kane Ramsey, because all these players have played for the first team at some stage, and it's there where you sort of sit there and you're looking for people to lead from
Yeah,
the
I'll
front.
have to check on that, Mark. I don't believe that Harry Lewis has ever represented the first team. I'll have to have a look at that, but I don't
He has, mate. He played, I'll tell you the game he played in. Norwich City, FA Cup, played in the FA Cup game, and he also played, so he played in the 2-2, I think it was 2-2, and then there was a replay which he played in, and then he played against Arsenal in the following round, because that was when the Frenchman, whose name's escaping me, which is awful, but when the Frenchman decided to play all the youngsters in the fourth round of the FA Cup against Arsenal, and we promptly went on and lost, I think it was 5-0.
Oh, Claude Puel.
Yeah, Claude Puel, thank you. I was just trying to forget the name, to be honest with you, but thanks for bringing that back up, yeah.
That's why I said Claude Puel.
Yeah.
Puel. Yeah, no, yeah, well, it shows I remember it was because I completely forgot. Sorry, Harry. Whoops. Anyway, moving on from there. News from the Southampton women. This is disappointing, unfortunately, that their National League Southwest game against Maidenhead was postponed, unfortunately. So details of a rearranged fixture will be announced in due course. Their next fixture is due to be away in the Vitality Women's FA Cup on the 1st of November. So obviously that's very, very soon indeed. Literally one day away. So that's sad news for the women, unfortunately, but we'll move on from that. And also, 2 more November games have been picked for TV. So 2 additional Saints games in November have been selected for live television coverage. Sky Sports will now show the home matches against Newcastle United and Man United, with both games now given the following dates and kick-off times. Saints v Newcastle United, Friday the 6th of November, 8 p.m. And Southampton versus Manchester United, Sunday the 29th of November, 2 p.m. And Saints trip to Aston Villa on Sunday the 1st of November has already been selected for live coverage, as we already know. So there we go, Mark. 2 more games that have been moved for TV. So hopefully a friend of ours will be able to help us to watch that in some way.
All being well.
Not naming names or anything. Anyway, moving on. Southampton Football Club would like to advise all 2020-21 season ticket holders that they'll be refunded for Sunday's game against Everton, as fans will not be permitted to attend, which they won't, obviously. The club will also begin the refund process for the home fixture against Newcastle United on 7th of November. The aim is to refund fans ahead of the match. Refunds for the amounts for each game will be processed within 14 working days from the announcement, as guaranteed by Saints' promise, the commitment to protect season ticket holders. Fans that have paid for multiple tickets, refund for each of the tickets will be paid back to the card used at time of purchase, same normal standard procedure. If there's any issue of refunding directly to supporters, the club will contact those individuals directly over the coming weeks. Hospitality clients will be contacted directly by their account manager. Further announcements will be made in emails sent to season ticket holders once refunds are complete. Should you need to contact the club, you can email the ticket office tickets@saintsfc.co.uk or call them on 02381 780 780, and that should be able to deal with the refund situation for you, which hopefully, Mark, you've already had one of yours for the Everton game. You'll be getting very
I'm not sure whether I've had my refund, funnily enough, for the Everton game yet, but not that I've been keeping an eye on it, but
well, it'll be a bonus when it turns up if it hasn't already.
I'll let you know when it happens. Well, I'll let you know when I get the refund for both. Okay.
Well, if it turns up and you're not expecting it, Merry Christmas. Right.
As a very famous supermarket always says, every little helps.
Absolutely right. Yeah. That's Saints FC price. Right, anyway. Southampton manager Ralph Hasenhüttl believes that new signing Ibrahima Diallo will have benefited from a full week at the training pitch at Staplewood. He's indicated the midfielder may still need to be patient while he waits for his first start. He signed from Brest earlier in the month, but immediately departed for the international duty with the France under-21 team before returning shortly before last weekend's 3-3 draw at Chelsea. Well, it wasn't last weekend, the weekend before. But anyway. Yeah. He made a late appearance at Stamford Bridge, coming on as a substitute shortly before Yannick Vestergaard netted a dramatic late equaliser, and since been training with his teammates. Ralph said it's important for him to have a good first appearance, taking a point and coming into the team that makes the equaliser. It's good for him. Now, Now, in the last couple of weeks, we've trained hard with him and showed him a few things about what's important for him. He's a smart guy. We still wait for getting the first chance, maybe for playing longer from the beginning, but it sometimes comes quicker than you think, and then you must be fit. So, yeah, they're obviously working on his fitness, but he made a brief appearance against Chelsea. They've obviously been working with him since then. So, look forward to his next appearance, whenever that'll be, and who knows, maybe it'll be against Villa.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Mark,
he said it's going to be very exciting when he does play, because he's obviously seen.
I mean, all I would say about that is obviously, you look at the business that was done this summer, and obviously Kyle Walker-Peters has just carried on where he's left off, basically, and and he's brought so much more to the party. But then just focusing on Diallo, I mean, he had a nice little cameo role again on Sunday. He looks very assured when he's on the ball. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing much more of him, because I do think that those two bits of business, obviously, at the minute are the two standout bits of business from the summer by the looks of it. I mean, he looks very, very composed. So it'd be interesting how he comes into the team should, Romeu or Ward-Prowse get injured, because obviously at the minute, given what's happened, they're not going to get moved anytime soon. So, unless one of them gets injured, then he comes in. But it'd certainly be interesting to see when he makes his first proper start for us.
Definitely. Well, just give you a little bit of a background on it as well for yourself and anybody else who's not aware of what he's about. Shay Adams has said he's excited to play alongside his new teammate Ibrahim Diallo this season, as he told Hampshire Live. Considering that former Brest star has been labelled the new N'Golo Kante by some, well, he's not. He's the new Ibrahim Diallo. Remember that?
I was just going to point that out, yeah.
But France under-21 international is also an intelligent, progressive distributor, as well as just being a ball-winning midfielder. The other string to his bow, obviously, is intelligent, progressive distributor. It has to be if he wants to thrive in a Southampton team at their best when cutting through opposition defences with rapid flow and counter-attacks. Adam said he's been very good, actually. He has nice close control and a variety of passing. It's going to be exciting to see what he can bring to the team, and hopefully we can really get the best out of him. So that's just a slight insight from his teammate Adams, who's obviously been training with him and likes what he sees and says it's going to be fantastic, really exciting. So that's great to hear.
I think we can look forward and be positive about it.
He's still young as well, 21 years old, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side of that, I'd still like to see them tie Romeu down to a new contract, but I probably wouldn't give him a 3 year. I'd probably give him a 2 year or something like that. But we'll see what happens.
Absolutely right. So moving on. Southampton Football Club are asking for your Saints Day dedications. Their next Premier League home match against Newcastle United on Friday the 6th of November will mark the club's annual All Saints Day fixture, and they're inviting fans to send their dedications. Each year the club remembers players, staff, supporters, family members and loved ones connected to the club who've passed away in the previous 12 months with a designated tribute game. They'll once again be publishing short dedications in the club's official matchday programme, Saints, as they invite fans to send in names, photos and brief messages of no more than 30 words in memory of supporters and associates who've passed away in the last year. The club will add its respects to former players and staff who we've lost in that period, while the match will also be an annual remembrance game as we pay our respects to the fallen. And that's obviously those fans, players, staff, etc. from years gone by as well. And obviously there are a few of those that we'll remember very fondly.
All I would say about that is, most people know it's an annual thing. It's always the closest home game, obviously, to the Day of Remembrance. And I mean, all I would do is encourage people, especially if you've lost a loved one that was a Saints fan or whatever over the past year, send in your dedication. And
so we move on to the next story, which for me had a worryingly familiar ring to it, Mark. Now, maybe I'm just being slightly sceptical on this one, but this had a vaguely familiar ring to it. Not only the logo, but the name of the company as well. AI Sport Technology, which has a very similar logo to one we've seen on Saints shirts, which is strange. And Southampton Football Club is delighted to welcome AI Sport as official partner after agreeing a 1-year deal. The Singapore-based sports data platform launched in 2020. Using the latest data. Does this sound familiar to you? It sounds vaguely familiar.
Sounds very familiar, yeah.
Technology to provide sport fans with key insights into sporting performance. Over the course of the partnership, AI Sport will have a presence on SouthamptonFC.com in support of the platform's launch.
Right.
Sorry, is that Audi?
Sounds very familiar, but yeah, I'll speak about it once you've finished reading the article, mate.
But anyway, AI's platform uses historic and real-time data while leveraging technology to enable its customers to make smarter, faster, more confident decisions on worldwide sports, including esports, football and basketball. Customers will be able to subscribe to the AI Sport platform to get the latest updates and analysis of matches with a wide range of historic and real-time data analysed to predict results. Saints SC's Chief Commercial Officer Dave Thomas said, "We're delighted to be partnering with AI Sport as they launch their innovative new platform, bringing their cutting-edge use of AI technology and data analytics to sports fans worldwide." AI Sports CEO Max Ron commented, "We're excited to partner with Southampton Football Club, dynamic and innovative brand which instantly recognised our unique football analytics and predictions technology." Is that Audi Sports in sheep's clothing, maybe?
Yeah, well, all I'm going to say is obviously the club hasn't suffered from being once bitten and twice shy, because they're basically doing the same thing with a starter-up company, abroad, and you're sort of sitting there thinking, well, let's hope that this one doesn't end in tears like the last one did, because it just sounds like a carbon copy of what, and the same sort of statement that the club released whenever they went into partnership with LD Sports. So then let's hope this one turns out to be more fruitful for the football club.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is slightly influenced by our owner, Mr. Gow, to be fair. But anyway, we'll see, I guess. Anyway, we'll move on from there. We'll move on to what we think is a far more important topic at the moment, and that is Ryan Bertrand opening up on the racist abuse he has suffered as a player throughout his life as well. From when he was young, about 7 years old in Bermondsey, being brought up there, suffering abuse there, to obviously suffering it at St Mary's, very sadly, which we all know about. Very sad situation, to be fair, Mark. I think it's probably fair to say. He discussed his personal experiences with racism, having been previously subjected to abuse, and has backed the Premier League's No Room for Racism campaign. Not really an awful lot to flesh it out with, really, I can say, other than him saying first happened to him when he was about 7 years old. A car drove past and some adults shouted out some words that he didn't really understand. And he said it stood out in his mind, a car full of adults abusing a 7-year-old kid as it drove past. At that time, I didn't think much of it, to be honest. I just didn't understand him and was very confused. But if you think of it, it's a bit mad that these people are out there. That's why I think this togetherness we're all showing, it will eradicate it. What we're propagating with the education from kids up and the adults down is necessary. Will we ever fully eradicate it? Probably not. And I think he's probably bang on in that interview, to be fair. Very honest, very from the heart, and bang on the money.
Just because we think we should, it won't be eradicated doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't be trying to eradicate it. That's what I would say there. Yeah. But, the thing is like, all I would say there is like it shouldn't be happening, and it shouldn't have happened when he was 7, and it certainly shouldn't be happening now. But it's a sad indictment of us as a society. You have to say that. But I mean, the thing is that if you show a united front and people speak out, about it, whenever they see it or they hear it, especially if you're at the football or anything like that there, But, you have to, I think all people have to show a united front to show that it won't be tolerated.
I agree with you 100%. And if you're a fan that goes to watch anything at St Mary's and you're even thinking of entertaining those sorts of thoughts, please don't attend a football match. If you have any kind of thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away. We don't want you coming to football.
And he's not the only Saints player who's ever suffered that, is he? Paul Williams, the ex-Premier League player that played for Saints, was a sub, an unused sub in the 2003 Cup final, actually said that speaking out against racism caused problems. He said it was seen as acceptable for teammates in the team culture to say things, and if you made a fuss about it, you had a chip on your shoulder. That was even through school. You'd get, here he is, he's got a chip on his shoulder because you want to stick up for him, blah, 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 stick up for yourself. It gets knocked out of you. You just want to keep harmony with your peers. My dad was trying to tell me, keep your head down and try to be the best you can be, which is probably the only way to deal with it, to be fair, but it's not easy to deal with, and you shouldn't have to, should you? Like you
it was, at the time, it was probably the best way to deal with it, Mark, but then the thing is, well, I don't want to use that as any kind of excuse, because it's not, as I say again, it's not acceptable, but people always turn around and say, oh, well, the wave it away by saying, oh, well, it was of its time. But it shouldn't have even been happening back then, and I can understand, Paul's dad's attitude where he's sort of just saying, keep your nose clean, keep your head down, don't go upsetting anybody. Even if they're upsetting you, don't you go upsetting anybody, So it's wrong in that, and even in that sense. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, there's also a couple of other stories which we'll include in this bit in relation to it, because I think it all kind of ties in together, to be fair. Saints celebrate Black History Month. During 2020, Saints embarked upon a project which began to take a deep dive into the club's extensive history, including revisiting the contributions made by the club's first ever black player, Alf Charles, who was signed back in 1937. He made his solitary appearance in the Football League in a 2-2 draw at Bradford City on January 9th, 1937, replacing Billy Boyd. He also played in 5 reserve games in which he scored 2 goals before injury curtailed his career. Since then, more than 40 black players have represented Saints at first team level, with Charles paving the way at a time where there was little black representation in the sport, and remains a significant part of the club's history. And in order to celebrate the contribution of black players over the years and across the various eras, the club has designed and installed a plaque at St Mary's Stadium in memory of Alf Charles. The club's also been running a number of other activities to coincide with Black History Month. Also, the club have now also revealed why they've not signed up to the Diversity Code at the moment.
Okay.
So we'll cover those two for the minute, Mark, and then we'll come to the very last one, which is relating to the announcement of the 25-man Premier League squad.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Go on. But all I would say is I've got to be honest. I've always fancied myself as a bit of a Saints, not really. But I've got to be honest with you, Mark. Right, the first time that I heard of Alf Charles, to my shame, was 2007. I hadn't actually heard of him before that.
Equally, it's a shame to admit that I have literally just found out this week. Literally.
Right. I mean, it's fat, but it is a shame. The thing is, you like to think that you keep your finger on the pulse and a little bit about the history. But I hadn't heard about Alf Charles until 2007. So I've got to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to going down and seeing the plaque, and my intention is to lay some red and white flowers there as well. But it's great that the club's done it, mate. These people deserve to be remembered. And not just in the Saints that they played for Saints, but obviously they're part of our. And when I say our, I'm talking about the football club's history, and and they need to be celebrated and remembered in equal measures that we would. Some of our own sort of iconic Saints heroes.
Yep, absolutely right. And relating to the Diversity Code, obviously 42 Premier League clubs have signed up to the new English football clubs have signed up to the new Diversity Code issued by the FA or the Premier League. Southampton are one of those clubs that haven't, although they have stressed it's obviously due to the fact that they've recently got this award for diversity and equality, and they actually feel at the moment that they're not sure where the new Diversity Code's going, and they want it to be a bit more clear, which is the reason they haven't signed up for it.
I mean, you can go through the highlights if you want, Mark, but the only thing I really want to say about it, and I'll say it before you read the article, I won't make any other comment, is the club has reached the highest point that you can reach, right, on the diversity thing with the Premier League, and and all I would say is, they're the only club to have reached that point. You know, the only club in the Premier League to have reached that point. So, you know, for people to come out and make comment about it, you know, you've got to look at what the club's actually done. They're the only people to have reached the high point.
Yeah, I'm just going to literally read a couple of paragraphs, which literally just sums the whole thing up. It won't take me long to do that. So basically, how to achieve the Premier League's advanced equality standard at the first time of asking, the only club to have achieved this to date. The achievement was the culmination of a 5-year equality and diversity journey, which included setting and monitoring recruitment targets amongst a number of other equality and diversity initiatives forming our action plan. Saints FC are wholly supportive of the Football League Diversity Code objectives. We're aware the Premier League are revising their equality standards to bring the two closer together. At this time, the club consider it most appropriate course of action to wait and understand how a revised Premier League equality standard and Football Leadership Diversity Code will work together and complement each other before revising our recruitment targets and already established processes. They've had productive, encouraging discussions with Paul Elliott. End of.
Yeah, I think that's bang on the money. To be honest with you, you know, all they're saying is let's see what's new in there, and then we, you know, they're not saying they won't sign up. They're saying you'll probably sign up, and we'll sort of look at what we're doing at the minute to sort of accommodate anything that's new that's being put out there. Which I think, you know, it's fair enough, but I just want to remind people out there that, you know, Saints are the only club to have reached the diversity standard. You know, they're the only club that's done it. The other 19 clubs haven't even, well, I wouldn't say haven't bothered. Obviously, they're in the process of reaching it, but we're the first club to have done it.
Yep. So, moving on to the announcement from Saints of the Premier League squad. And this is basically split into two. So you have the senior squad and the under-21s. In the senior squad, Shay Adams, Stuart Armstrong, Jan Bednarek, Ryan Bertram, Musa Djenepo, Fraser Forster, Danny Ings, Tyreek Johnson, Kingsley Latham, Harry Lewis, Shane Long, Alex McCarthy, Sam McQueen, Nathan Redmond, Jack Stevens, Yannick Vestergaard, Theo Walcott, Carl Walker-Peters and James Ward-Prowse. The under-21s featured names Mohamed Salisu, David Agbonta-Homer, Goran Babic, Sam Bellis, Jack Bycroft, Matthew Carson, Lucas Defize, Ibrahim Diallo, Diamond Edwards, Will Ferry, Ryan Flanagan, Matthew Hall, Alex Yankovic, Seamus Keogh, Pascal Kapumu, Cameron Ledwidge, Gustav Lindenberg, Romello Mitchell, Dan Lindelof, Tom O'Connor, Michael Obafemi, Kazima Legbe, Olade Olonfunwa, Leon Pambu, Lewis Payne, Luke Pearce, Kane Ramsey, Enzo Rabize, Jeremy Rodriguez. He's an 18-year-old we signed from, I can't remember the name of the club, but young 18-year-old we signed.
Yep.
Tommy Scott, Callum Slattery, Benny Smails, Braithwaite, Will Smallbone, Jaden Smith, Alan Chepchet, Nathan Teller, Will Tizard, Jack Turner, Jan Valery, Jake Vakins, Caleb Watts, Harvey Woods and Oliver Wright. And that is the Saints squad. That second list was obviously the under-21s.
Yeah. I mean, all I would say about that is effectively all the club have to do is register that first group, okay? Because effectively the under-21s, you can play any of those, because obviously the idea would be that most of those has come through the ranks of the football club anyway, so they would qualify to play.
See, right. And that brings us to the end of that section. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, other football news.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, other football news. And this is beginning with the Premier League. Burnley, the Clarets are subject of a £200 million takeover bid by Mohamed Al-Kashashi and Chris Farnell. Yep, so there we go, Mark. Burnley look as though they're going to be taken over. £200 million. Not bad, is it, if it happens? Because I know Sean Dyche was a bit upset about the fact he didn't have any transfer funds.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, as well, is like the frustration was born out of the fact that Jeff Kendrick, whose contract finished on the 31st of May, I think it was, and he wanted him to sign a new contract, and obviously with COVID going on, the board weren't as keen for him to sign a new contract. Hence, he ended up moving to Newcastle on a free. So I know he was disappointed about that. And basically, at the end of the day, hopefully it's a good move for Burnley. Because obviously at the minute it would seem that the board, like a lot of people, they're struggling financially to be able to put any money in. I mean, I don't think anybody on the board has any sort of significant money at Burnley anyway.
Yeah, another reason for covering Burnley as well. The second story we have relates to Burnley as well, and the fact that Sean Dyche, the manager, said he feels that players are squealing and screaming to win penalties to take advantage of there being no fans in stadiums. We certainly heard some of that in the Everton game, to be fair, involving the Saints. And he said, I've seen so many penalties given this season which are nothing moments. New one now is feigning injury and people squealing and holding their face. The referee, because of the empty stadiums, you can scream and yap, and that seems to find a way of making him think differently. I'm not talking about gamesmanship. That's been there forever. You get tripped in the box and go down. There's been clever strikers around forever. But now you have blatant cheating, you have blatant feigning of injury, people squealing and screaming. He's obviously clearly very upset about that. And interestingly, Burnley haven't had a penalty this season either.
I mean, all I would say about that is, Mark, very quickly is, Sean Dyche, normally I wouldn't agree with him on anything, but it's something that I've definitely picked up on since there hasn't been supporters in the stadium, and there's a lot of people that are doing the old Swan Lake dive and stuff like that there, and they are going down and they are squealing like you wouldn't believe, when I was a kid, there was a programme called Just William with Bonnie Langford, right? She used to always go on about screaming. Then she used to scream, right? Well, some of the players are that over the top with it as well, So, as I say, I only picked up on it. It's something that I agree with him about. Whether it's because it's projected more with empty stadiums, I don't know. But it's certainly something that you take a lot of notice of.
Definitely, yeah, and I think it is having an impact. So anyway, we'll move on to Manchester United. They've actually modified Old Trafford to hold 23,500 socially distanced fans. They say they're bemused by the ongoing ban on fans at stadiums. The government proposed crowds to be gradually introduced at the start of October, but made a U-turn following the rising cases, obviously. Colette Roche, United's chief operating officer, said, "We received government guidance. I'm convinced that we'd be able to accommodate fans safely." So, yeah, that's what they feel. They spent around 2 months working with the government guidelines to develop the right processes and measures to make sure we can have around 23,500 people in the stadium safely, social distancing. So they're pretty upset at the fact that they can't do that. And they're probably equally upset at the fact that, to be fair, this goes hand in hand with the fact they've apparently lost 70 million quid in revenue. So they're obviously more upset than everyone else at the moment, by the looks of it.
I can understand the revenue loss, and the upset caused there. But I'm going to reserve judgment on any of those until we get to the last article of this section, and then I'll let go with all barrels.
No problem at all there. Right, Wolves defender Max Kilman has signed a new contract at Molineux, keeping him at the club until 2025. The 23-year-old joined from non-league Maidenhead in August 2018 and agreed a new 2-year deal in April. Now over to Mark, who knows a lot more about Max Kilman than I do, and I'm not afraid to admit my ignorance on this one.
So he signed for Wolves from Maidenhead United, I believe, and I only know it because I think it was 2018 he signed for them, right? There was no sign of the developments that we've seen since the start of this season. I mean, the guy's been a revelation, and just to help you out, Mark, if you're looking for a signing that's cheap and cheerful, in your backline for your fantasy league, he's only 4.1 mil, so that you might consider him. But no, all I would say is where this form has come from, I don't know. But obviously, being thrown in at the deep end and seems to be swimming like a good one. Hence, they've given this new contract to 2025. Good luck to him. It's great to see, especially non-league players. It's great to see them making the breakthrough that they do. I mean, this is the first real significant one that I can think of, since sort of Jamie Vardy. Really?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Right, we'll move back to the Premier League. Move on to another article related to the Premier League. Mike Ashley has called for a review of the current system for pay-per-view. He called for the Premier League to review its pay-per-view live matches in the UK. However, he voted in favour of the current agreement, which requires fans to pay $14.95 to watch individual fixtures. But he's now, however, said this is because there was no realistic or any viable alternative put forward to enable supporters to watch matches, he said. He's now said charging $14.95 for single televised matches in the current climate is not acceptable to any football fan. Well, why on earth did you vote for it in the first place then, you absolute tool?
But then, Mark, he's not. I mean, okay, it's fair enough for him to come and speak out now. But then he's not the only one. That's what our club did. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, our club tried to turn around and say, well, our vote didn't matter because everybody voted in favour. Because apparently the voting was done on an alphabetical order system. But the thing is like, if you've got an objection, vote no. I mean, why vote yet? What? So your vote didn't matter, so you thought you'd just vote yes along with everybody else?
Well, it was done alphabetically, and the vote had already gone in favour of it, so we just went along with it. If you object to it, you say you object to it.
You say no. Yeah, exactly.
The Premier League, I've seen him try it. The amount of legal cases, God knows what they have to answer. What I found far more interesting, actually, is that an employee of Sky Sports actually believes they should scrap it.
Yeah, which is Gary Neville, which you don't need to do the article, but suffice to say that you know there's something sort of wrong when you've got a bloke who's employed by Sky Sports, right? And he's coming out against the idea of you know, he's saying actually scrap it. He's not even saying reduce it to a fiver. He's saying it shouldn't be happening. So I don't know how you square the circle on that one, but anyway, fair play to him for coming up and coming out and saying it. But at the end of the day, you know, Gary, let me be a little bit cynical here, but who's paying your wages? Remind me on that one again.
He'll keep his job as well because of how popular he's doing his punditry.
The thing is right. I mean, just veering off slightly. You know, Gary Neville is the main reason for Jamie Carragher keeping his job with Sky Sports because he, you know, for the incident on the motorway or the road that happened, you know, any decent firm would have turned around and said on your bike, Jamie. But the fact that, you know, they have this banter or repartee, I've never witnessed it myself. Apparently. Mostly on Monday Night Football. You know, you can basically say that Gary Neville saved Jamie Carragher his job.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and talking of saving people's jobs, because this may well do that, to be fair, a solution for offsides needn't be very far away. Premier League bids to change the controversial line system by learning from the Dutch FA to try and fix controversy, such as Jordan Henderson's late winner at Everton. The Premier League are discussing a margin of error clause on VAR offside calls. New changes could see a change in the VAR lines to judge top-flight offsides. PGMOL chief Mike Riley wants advice from the Dutch FA about VAR offside calls. They're planning a renewed attempt to persuade FIFA to allow a margin of error on tight offsides that continue to plague the game. Mike Riley wants feedback from the Dutch FA after the Eredivisie ignored FIFA's orders of zero tolerance on offsides, and this season brought in a 10-centimetre linesman's call. The system sees the VAR judge offside using two 5-centimetre lines, and if they touch, the final decision remains with the on-field officials. Now, my understanding of how this might work is you'll have one line which will go along the line of where the players are, and you'll have another line that's 5 centimetres away from that. And if that 5-centimetre line contacts the other one, the player's offside.
That's how I understand it.
If your elbow's offside, or your tongue's offside, or your nose is offside, or your hair's offside, you should actually be onside under that system.
Correct.
So hopefully that will eliminate these silly offside calls that we've all seen that are so marginal you can't even see it with a naked eye.
I mean, I've got to be honest and say that I am hopeful that they adapt it, but
yeah. Me too. But yeah, that's my understanding of it. For anybody who's not sure on that, thinks it might be complicated, I think it could be as simple as that. We hope it is. 100%. Anyway, moving on to the next story. Southend United have paid their £493,991 tax bill, and the winding up petition they had against them in the High Court has been dismissed. Fantastic news for them.
Yeah, no, it is good news. It is good news.
Brilliant. On the back of the fact that EFL clubs feel victimised, according to by the government, according to their chairman, Rick Parry. So that's the EFL's chairman, Rick Parry, feels they've been victimised.
I understand. You know, the thing is that article was also to do as well as with fans going in the stadia. You know, he was talking about the financial help. And I've always maintained that my viewpoint about the financial help I totally agree with, while there isn't fans being allowed in the stadia. But then, as I say, I'm going to reserve judgment about that particular topic till the last article in this section.
So a little bit more positive news. FA Cup, losing teams are to get prize money share to help with finances. So this is probably a good move. At least there's something filtering through. Might not be a huge amount. But losing teams will receive a fair share of will receive a share of prize money in the FA Cup first round to lessen the financial impact of ties being paid behind closed doors. Yeah, sadly, that won't help any of the teams that were in the last round, including one we know of quite well locally who didn't actually get any money from their tie, a huge amount, because obviously away fans weren't allowed in.
Yeah.
So
the bottom line is the reason why this has been introduced is because there's no fans whatsoever in the ties. The thing is the previous round you were allowed fans in the stadium, you just weren't allowed away fans. So it's basically the FA's way of negating, you know, the fact that there's no fans whatsoever being allowed in for the first round proper. The other good news about that is that there's 13 ties. Apparently the BBC are going to be showing 13 ties over that live ties over that weekend.
Very good. Excellent. Right, moving on to Scottish football. Talks between the Scottish Government and the football authorities aimed at seeing a return of fans to games will take place later this week. Also, this is very interesting. Right, this relates to the Champions League. UEFA have confirmed 2 places for Scotland next season as well, Mark. So talks are to resume on fans' return, and obviously they've got 2 places in the Champions League.
Yeah, so very, very quickly then, basically, obviously, Scotland's already had pilot schemes in the Scottish Premier League. I think one of the biggest problems was that Jason Leach, who's one of the head scientists or head people in relation to what's going on with COVID in Scotland, he's basically turned around and said, that both the games were successful. And I think because they were deemed successful by him, the Scottish clubs were hopeful that something else was going to happen. But I think it's just a case of watch this space. I mean, I haven't heard anything yet this week about the meeting or what's taking place. There's certainly been I haven't seen anything on the media. So maybe it's this coming week. But, if anything happens, obviously we'll let the listeners know. The other thing I was going to say was the article as I read it about the Champions League wasn't as impressive as it sort of noticed, because basically what it is Scottish team, the champions at the minute, they go into, I think it's the fourth qualifying round, so 2 rounds before. And what they're proposing is that the second place team in the Scottish Premier League go into the 3rd qualifying round, which is the round obviously before the Scottish champions would join. So the chances of actually there being, even though they've been given this extra place, I still feel that the chances of a Scottish football team regularly competing in the Champions League just isn't happening. I mean, it just shows what a closed cartel the Champions League actually is.
Absolutely right. Right, moving on to international football. England to host the Republic of Ireland in a friendly at Wembley on the 12th of November. This was after New Zealand withdrew from the fixture because of travel and player availability complications. So not the first home nation England have played. Also, the World Cup 2022, England are among the top 10 European seeds for the qualifying draw.
All right, so basically the second one I'm not going to go into because that just speaks for itself, and you wouldn't expect anything less. I certainly wouldn't if I was an England fan.
Yeah, there's another story which relates to the women, which is Germany versus England. Coronavirus has made international football a logistical nightmare, said Phil Neville. So we'll tie that one in.
So basically, going back to the first one of those, Mark, and that is that I think the FA's been quite sensible, because they arranged a friendly last week and it was against Wales. They've arranged a friendly for next month, and it's against the Republic of Ireland. Now, admittedly, they're having to play 2, Nations League games that week again, like they did, when they played Wales last month. But I think the FA's been quite sensible in who they've arranged the friendlies with, because if you notice, it's teams that aren't travelling that far at all. And I think they deserve a bit of credit for that.
Yeah, and all the England friendlies so far have been at home, so they've prevented that travel, even though you can't do much about the Nations League. That does involve travel. But obviously when it comes to the home friendlies, they've obviously made sure they're all at Wembley and there's no travelling involved, which is great. And I agree with you 100%. Definitely. Yeah. So moving on to the last one.
Just one other thing very quickly on the women's football, right? So this stems from England. So the rest of the UK teams played European Championship qualifiers, right? England didn't have one because obviously they're staging it. They've already qualified, right? They were due to play Germany. And, I think it's quite revealing, the fact that, the manager's coming out and saying it's a logistical nightmare. I mean, it's a difficult one for women's football. But all I would say is personally, from my point of view, unless you're able to sort of get a friendly, like we're talking for the men, against a side that's, British Isles based, let's put it like that, I probably wouldn't bother with international football, period, and that's for men or women.
And here's one that was
friendlies wise, I'm talking about, I wouldn't bother with international football.
I agree with you, Mark. Definitely agree with you there. Right, moving on to another story that was quite interesting for me, because I didn't know anything about this. This was a bit of a shock, actually. I didn't realise at all. Ryan Giggs, the Wales manager, said he's immensely proud to be Welsh and mixed race, although he had to suffer being made to feel different in his youth. The 46-year-old's father, ex-rugby league player Danny Wilson, is black, and his mother, Lynn Giggs, is white. And he was actually Cardiff born. So I didn't even know he was of mixed race, to be fair. To look at him, I wouldn't have known that. Sorry, Ryan. Didn't actually know what your family's history was. But that was I didn't know until this week.
Yeah, no, I've known, because obviously his father was a very, very famous rugby league player. Was well known at the time. So yeah, but as I say, it was obviously he's been speaking, because obviously again goes back to Black History Month, and the thing is a bit like a lot of people out there, Mark, that probably weren't aware that he was of mixed race. Yep. So, and it does get you thinking when you read stuff like that, initially, or it should get you thinking.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, and basically he was talking about he didn't suffer any form of racism, in Cardiff, funnily enough. But when he moved to Manchester, that's where he did have one or two problems. Yeah, but as I say, no, it was interesting to know and everything else. But as I say, I already knew about it because the dad, Danny, his dad's quite famous, for having played rugby league and stuff like that.
So we move on to European football news. Barcelona president Bartomeu has resigned. Mario Bartomeu resigned. Joseph Maria Bartomeu has resigned, but says he accepted proposals for the club during European Super League. Obviously, he did have a bit of a falling out with Lionel Messi recently, which obviously didn't help. And the fans have been calling for his resignation or calling for him to be sacked, haven't they? And they've got their wish.
And also, find out a little bit more about this, Mark. This might be a bit of a cracker for you, right? So he's on a Zoom call with other board members, right? And he's turned around and he said to them, by the way, I'm resigning, but I've signed Barcelona up to the new proposed Super European League. See you later. And that's basically what he did. And he did that in a Zoom call. So can you imagine, right? Now, don't get me wrong, there's been umpteen Barcelona fans calling for his head, right? And they reckon that, he was due to stand the vote they reckon obviously he would have lost the vote anyway. But apparently there was a Zoom call during the week, and basically he turned around and said, just so as you know, I've resigned. And in the meantime, I've signed you up to the new European Super League.
I've stitched you up. Goodbye. Right, moving on to German football. This is interesting as well. The Bundesliga, German football fans banned from attending matches. They were obviously the first league to allow fans back. They've quite high numbers of fans attending. They've had less issues than some of the other countries in Europe, including us. Yeah. And they're banning fans from attending matches, Mark, which doesn't bode well for anyone else, really, does it?
And the thing is that's why I was trying not to put any comment on until, we did this last article. The thing is Germany, I don't want to go down a political route here, Mark, right? But the thing is, Germany has had a less of a death rate than we've had, significantly less of a death rate than we've had because of COVID, right? And obviously, they're seeing their numbers rise again. Angela Merkel's made the decision that all stadium, I think, are closing from the 5th of November, isn't it? Yeah. And basically, and yeah, in this, even at this point, we've got people within football saying, please allow fans back into the stadium. So it's a difficult one, and I don't really want to come out, and say, I'm against fans going back into stadiums, or I'm for fans going in the stadiums. Yep. The thing is people have to make their own decisions if the government decides to allow it. But it just seems crazy that we've got more of an issue with it than Germany, and yet Germany are taking these precautions because they want to protect the football and go in public, and they want to protect the wider community.
Yep, absolutely right. So we'll move on to another story as well, which is relating to the school meal situation in regards to Marcus Rashford, etc. Leeds United have said it will match the 25,000 donation pledged by its squad to Marcus Rashford's campaign for free school meals during the holidays. Also, off the back of that, Marcus Rashford is to be given the City of Manchester Award. That's to thank him for his campaign to get free meals for children during school holidays. The award recognises outstanding and exceptional contribution to the city. And the very last article of that section actually relates to pay-per-view, and the Premier League fans have raised £300,000 as the scheme's set to continue. They've obviously objected to it, and instead of doing that, they've put money into local food banks, etc., to the tune of £300,000. So tying those three all in together really nicely. Marcus Rashford certainly deserves the award. Fantastic campaign he's launched. Great to know that Leeds are giving money to it as well. Hopefully the other clubs will follow suit too.
No, I mean, all I would say is, like, football fans in times of trouble, they never fail in not letting you down. They always step up to the plate. It's a little bit like the footballers. And I'm well done to Leeds United for saying that they'll do that. And they'll match any sort of target that's raised. The other thing that I would say is the award for Marcus. Can't praise him enough on this show. I mean, we've been doing it since the ground floor's been in. Right. But he deserves all the plaudits the young man gets.
And what I will say is, I saw an article saying somebody had actually criticised him for the fact that he came on the other day for Man United and lobbed a great big lump of phlegm out of his mouth onto the pitch and put, what a shining example of a role model to set for children. Lay off the bloke. He's probably done more in this lockdown than anyone, to be fair. Give the young lad a break, basically. He is a great role model.
I mean, all I'd say is I have a bigger issue with the fact that, there seems to have been a bit of a backlash on social media against him, in the sense that people have been publishing his salary and all this sort of nonsense. And then the suggestion has been, why don't you pay for it out of your own pocket? And I just think you fail to appreciate the fact that, I've got to the stage now where every time there's a crisis, why is it that footballers have to put their hands in their pockets? I mean, I don't want to get into too much politics, but I would have thought it was the duty of the governing party to make sure that every child of a school age gets a meal in their bellies.
Yeah, and all I'd like to say is massive thanks to all the companies, restaurants, etc., that are all diving in and issuing free school meals, and schools that have sent out meal boxes and all sorts. It's much appreciated from all of you, and well done. Marcus Rashford, thank you so much for keeping 100%. The campaign going. And I know 100%. People are very grateful for it. And that brings that section of the podcast today to an end very quickly and very nicely. Very well done, Mark, and very well covered. And we'll have a very short break.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back, everyone. The Two Saints preview of Saints versus Aston Villa. Last season, the first fixture, which was the 21st of December, Southampton won 3-1 with goals from Danny Ings on the 21st and 51st minute, separated by a Jack Stevens goal in the 31st minute. And Jack Grealish getting a goal for Aston Villa. Surprise, surprise. The one player who always seems to score against Saints is Jack Grealish. Also, in the reverse fixture, Southampton 2, Aston Villa 0. Shane Long scored in the 8th minute, and Stuart Armstrong wrapped it up brilliantly in the 95th minute with a fantastic ball from Shay Adams that he ran onto completely unmarked and slotted into an empty net and brought the house down at St Mary's. Absolutely one of my favourite memories from 2019. Absolutely brilliant, Mark, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And obviously you were lucky enough to see both of those.
I was. All I would say is going into this game, though, a completely different game. I mean, Villa's been very, very active, very sensible compared to last season.
Yeah, I was just looking at the
in the transfer market.
I was just going to say, I've just been looking at those actually. They've they brought in Aaron O'Reilly from St Patrick's Athletic, undisclosed. Mark will know who St Patrick's Athletic are. Sils Finkels from Vitesse Arnhem on a free transfer. Olivier Zich from Zaglebi Lubin. That's probably the incorrect pronunciation, but there we go. Undisclosed fee. Ben Crescent from Exeter City, 440,000. Ruben Shakpoke from Norwich City, undisclosed. Matty Cash from Notts Forest, 14 million. Ollie Watkins from Brentford, 28 million. Lamar Bogard from Feyenoord, undisclosed. Emilio Martinez from Arsenal, the goalkeeper, 17 million. And Bertrand Traoré from Olympique Lyonnais for 17 million. So, yeah, sensible, but not spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that sort of stands out there is obviously they've brought in an upgrade goalkeeper.
Oh, definitely.
That's the first thing to say. Yep. Martinez
definitely.
From Arsenal.
Yep.
They've brought in, obviously, again, I would say an upgrade right back in Matty Cash.
Yeah.
And obviously, the one thing that they were lacking last season was any sort of potency up front. I mean, Wesley, who was signed from Dutch football, he sort of flattered to deceive, really.
Yep.
And then, so he's addressed that this season by bringing in Ollie Watkins and Traoré from Lyon. Traoré obviously, he had a go at Premier League football before with Chelsea, and Ollie Watkins, somebody that Saints was looking at. But let's get off that. Let's go to the game itself. The game itself, you got two teams that were riding the crest of the wave up until last weekend, Aston Villa got absolutely trenched in a game that looked fairly even Stevens.
To be fair, it was the Leeds game was the Patrick Bamford show, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, the thing is you were going in at halftime. I was listening to the game on the radio, and there wasn't a lot to pick between the teams, and then Aston Villa got unlocked, really. I'll be hoping for more of the same from Saints.
Yep.
On Sunday. Hoping that Danny Ings, Stuart Armstrong, Theo Walcott or Nathan Redmond, whoever it is that's playing in that position.
Yep.
And obviously Shay Adams, with those front attacking players, plus hopefully a few decent through balls from midfield, we're going to create problems for them. I know that in an interview, Dean Smith said that he was very weary of the Southampton attack.
Yep.
So whether there's any special plans in place, I know, and team news, well, not team news wise, but squad wise. Obviously they're without Wesley. Aston Villa are without Wesley, Courtney Hawkes and Tom Heaton. They're long-term injuries, and Saints are without the invisible man Mohamed Salisu. We're also without trying to think Gineppo and Will Smallbone. So, but as I said,
I have good news, people. Mohamed Salisu has been seen in training at Staplewood, so he's not invisible.
But
he's been seen.
Yeah, well, he's invisible in terms of we haven't seen him on a pitch yet.
Let's just refer to Mohamed the Scarlet Pimpernel Salisu as that. They seek him there. They seek him there. They seek him everywhere. So, yeah.
Anyway, all I would say, mate, is that I think hopefully we should have enough for them to keep them occupied.
Yeah.
The worry, of course, is when Grealish gets on the ball, because anything kind of tends to everything kinds to tend to happen when he gets on the ball. So
Saints, I'll give you a tip, Saints and Saints defenders. I will give you a tip based on the last 2 times that Jack Grealish has scored against Saints. Mark the man, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, but as I say, hopefully we can win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm optimistic that we can do that. Scoreline, probably I'm going to go for 3-1. I'm going to go Saints 3-1. I'm hoping that if it's a repeat of how we have been performing on the counter-attack, I'm hoping that we overwhelm them in numbers on the counter-attack. And and that's basically how I sort of see the game. I mean, the thing that we have to warn against is obviously Aston Villa are coming off of the back of a loss, and that's the danger, Mark. So
there is that.
I don't want to be getting too complacent.
No.
I'm not getting carried away like I normally do.
Yeah, and what I would say to Ralph is Theo Walcott is obviously available as well. If you do decide to bring him in like you did against Chelsea, let's please not make the same mistake as we made against Chelsea. Let's make sure at the start of the game and up to half time at least that the fullbacks are getting plenty of cover from the guys in front of them. Because obviously at Chelsea, one of the issues was the fact that we were bombing forward, but we weren't really giving much cover to our fullbacks, were we? And they were left quite exposed. No. And that's the worry against Villa.
You're right to point that out.
Because obviously if you give that sort of space to Grealish, he'll bury you all afternoon, won't he?
Yeah. I mean, you're right to point that out in the away games, but I mean, I think if we do get on the front foot like we did against Everton, even though it was a home game, if we're pushing that far up with the full-backs getting that far forward in support of the wingers, let's say, or the right midfielder, left midfielder, whatever you want to call it, I think hopefully it should keep Aston Villa well occupied, mate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for me, the one plus point from the home game against Everton was the fact that in a transitional phase and from defence to attack, at times our transition to attack was absolutely swashbuckling at times. I'm not getting too carried away, but at times it was. And it was scintillating to watch.
That's what I'm saying about overwhelming people with numbers. Because obviously, when you're in possession, it would seem that when we're in possession of the football at the minute, it's more or less everybody, apart from your centre-backs, get forward and join the attack.
And the message to the players is, look, you're capable of playing scintillating football, and they really are capable of that. They would put some devastating attacks together against Everton. Weren't quite getting the just rewards with the goals, obviously, but I felt, it was quite swashbuckling at times, quite scintillating to watch. And if they can maintain that sort of movement going forwards, then they're a match for anyone. Let's not forget, we beat the league leaders. So let's not underestimate the fact that we can do that. But, temper it with a little bit of reservation. Obviously, be aware of the threat of Grealish. Be aware of the threat that Aston Villa can get in behind you if you do leave the gaps. And that's what we've got to be wary of, definitely. But for me, I'm going for a 2-0 Saints win. I'm quite confident.
Okay. As I say, 3-1 for me. But there you go, people.
Okay. Sounds pretty good to me, Mark. And I think that sums up our preview brilliantly. So 2-0 for me, 3-1 for Mark. Come on, you Reds. Let's hope we get the result. that our play deserves. It certainly deserved that against Everton. Didn't quite get the rub of the green in the fact that we probably should have scored a couple more goals, which might have boosted us up the table a little bit further. But let's not be greedy. We did beat the league leaders after all. So thank you very much for joining myself and Mark H for today's podcast show. And hopefully you'll join us again next week. And just to remind you, we haven't featured our Saints in Reflection part of the show today, but coming up next week on the radio show and also on the podcast, we will have a double header of Saints in Reflection. And one of those will be the late, great Alan Ball, who's absolutely legend on the South Coast, in my opinion, and certainly was at Saints. So it's goodbye from myself, Mark C.
And it's goodbye from me. All it leaves me to say to everybody out there is, hope you're taking care of each other and you're all staying safe. Hopefully you've enjoyed the recording and hopefully you'll listen to Mark and I's dulcet tones again next week. Cheers, people. Thanks for listening and take care of one another. Bye for now.
Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show.